Hello. Now we will consider section 79 of Indian Penal Code. Now, before we go to understand the section, let me share with you two interesting incidents. The first was about a woman named Bonda Kui, and the second incident was about a man named Chirangi Lohar. In the first incident, what happened was, one day this woman, Bonda Kui, woke up in the middle of the night and she saw a human form, something ghost-like human form. This human form was dancing in a state of complete nudity, with a broomstick tied on one side and a torn mat around the waist. This woman understood that form to be an evil spirit or an evil being which eats human beings. So this woman gave repeated blows to the evil spirit and made that evil spirit fall on the ground. But in fact, that evil spirit was none else than the wife of her husband's brother, and this woman had killed the wife of the husband's brother. This woman was prosecuted in the court of law for committing murder, and she was convicted and sentenced. The matter went to Patna High Court. Patna High Court set aside the conviction and sentence of this woman for the reason that this woman, by mistake of fact, thought that she was justified in killing the deceased, whom she did not understand as a human being but understood as an evil spirit or a ghost. In another incident, in the case of Chirangi Lohar, this happened in 1952. One day Chirangi Lohar had taken an axe and along with his 12-year-old son had gone to a nearby hillock, namely Budra Mata. He had gone there to gather some leaves and killed his son. He was prosecuted in the court of law but acquitted by the court. Reason? The accused at one point thought that his target was a tiger and not his son, and accordingly he assailed it with his axe. So in this case, the accused had, by reason of mistake of fact, thought that he was justified in destroying the deceased, whom he did not regard as a human being, but whom he thought was a dangerous animal. If he would have thought, or if he would have understood that the object of his attack was his son, he would have stopped from attacking him. Under the circumstances, the court held that the accused was protected by provisions of section 79, which we will see in a moment. So this section 79 is all about being justified in law. So with the two incidents that I have shared with you just now, the meaning of this section must have been sufficiently clear. I'll share with you another example. Suppose there is a man named Anand and there is another man named Zahir. One day Anand sees that Zahir is committing a murder. Now you see, the law gives to all persons the power of apprehending murderers. So Anand, in exercise of that power and to the best of his judgment exerted in good faith, arrests Zahir for bringing him before the proper authorities. Before the authorities, it turned out that Zahir was acting in self-defense. So even though this was the fact, still the law says that Anand was not wrong. Anand has not committed any offense, and this is what section 79 says. You see, in this example, Anand has not committed any offense in arresting Z because Anand presumed in good faith that Zahir was committing murder. So on reasonable grounds, Anand thought that he was justified by law to arrest a murderer, although factually Zahir was acting in self-defense and was not a murderer. Now, the mistake expected under section 79 must be a bona fide mistake in good faith, and it should be based on genuine grounds. Now, what is good faith? The question of good faith should be considered with reference to the position of the accused and the circumstances under which he acts. Now this section 79 can be called as a brother section of section 76, which we saw in the previous video. Why I am saying so? It is because a careful study of both the sections, that is section 76 and this section 79, will make it clear that under both the sections a person claims exemption by reason of mistake of fact from criminal liability against an act forbidden by law. But still, there is a fine distinction between both the sections, and what that distinction is, that we will see. The first distinction is section 76 is about legal compulsion and section 79 is about legal justification. Remember the words used by section 76, they were about being bound by law, and this section is about being justified by law. Section 76 exempts a person from criminal liability when that man believes himself bound by law to do a thing in a particular way, although in fact it may reveal his act to be an offense. Remember the example of a soldier firing on a mob under the orders of his superior officer in conformity with the commands of the law. In that case, that soldier had not committed any offense. That was illustration A to section 76. On the other hand, when a person, by reason of a mistake of fact, feels himself to be justified by law in doing an act in a particular way, section 79 deals with such cases. Remember here the example of Anand and Zahir that we saw just some time before. Anand had arrested Zahir, believing that Zahir was committing murder. Now, although it later on turned out that Zahir was acting in self-defense, still it will be the case of protection to Anand under this section. Another important difference between both the sections is that under section 76, a person acts because he believes he must act in a particular way. Remember the second illustration of section 76 given in the previous video relating to section 76. There, an officer of a court of justice being ordered by that court to arrest Y, and after due inquiry, that officer of the court believed that Z was Y, he arrested Z. That officer was held to have not committed any offense. That is what section 76 says. Whereas under section 79, a person thinks he has a justification for action and acts accordingly. Again, remember the illustration of Anand and Zahir. So that is all about section 79. In conclusion, I would say that section 79 exempts a man from criminal liability in those cases where by reason of a mistake of fact in good faith and not by reason of a mistake of law, a man considers himself justified by law to do an act in a particular way. I hope and expect that the meaning of section 79 must have been made sufficiently clear to you by now. For deeper understanding, I would recommend you to read your textbooks. Thank you.